I'm Paul Wood, CEO of BTU Metals, and I'm here with Doug Hunter, who's our VP of Exploration. Where we had left off one of these podcasts most recently, Doug was in discussions with Alan King, our geophysicist, and they had just recently identified multiple D2 structures, D2 folds on the BTU property, which are similar to what has been highlighted just to the north of us at GBR, Great Bear Resources. Since then, Doug has been back to site with the geological team, and GBR has come out with some more positive results. And from there, maybe, Doug, you could update us a little bit about when you went and what you found in your most recent trip to Red Lake.
Yes, well, Paul, really, we're finding that our ideas about some of these structures that the cross-cut are associated with the D2 folds, which are actually known from the main camp, Balmer series rocks up in Red Lake. We found that our interpretation or thoughts on the controlling structures for the gold are correct, and we can see from the airborne work, particularly the magnetics, we can see these trends, one of which is hosting the gold north of us, and we have a similar trending structure parallel, probably of the same generation on our property. That's one of the big things that's developed right so far.
And it's been a couple of weeks, I think, now, and Great Bear has come out with at least a couple of series of results, one of which I think was the 1,600 grams per ton over 0.7 meters, and also some longer holes that are exciting, that seems to be extending the discovery. And what are they finding that you think in the geology which suggests carries over to the BTU property and is similar on the BTU property?
Well, basically, they're still early stage prospecting. They've got one zone that's actually been drill tested to 400 meters, but they have many targets. They're finding new mineralization. They're focused on drilling short holes to actually understand the near surface structures better, and because there really isn't any outcrop there. And what they've found is they're now tracing from their hinge zone looks like a shear zone that goes almost east-west away from the hinge. So this is new mineralization they've discovered. So it's really early days. It's very exciting. They're not quite sure what's going on yet, but it's evolved. The picture is evolving, and it looks very good for us because we have similar structures on our property that we've identified, which we will be testing.
Right, and as they step out, I guess they've got three zones they're focusing on so far: the hinge, and then the limb off to the west, and then they're looking a little bit south. And all of this, I would point out, is what, about a kilometer north of the BTU northern border?
Yeah, it's the central hinge area would be maybe around that area, but there are mineralization. There's mineralization known much closer to our boundary from previous work, sort of within 500 meters, but it's 500 meters to 1.5 kilometer area where they've got mineralization, multiple zones.
And I think after the last interpretation with you and Alan King, we were looking at, you were interpreting the results of a Fugro Helitam survey, and you were identifying about six areas that were targets. Has anything evolved on that?
Actually, we have about half a dozen targets now that we're going to test. And excuse me a second. We have about half a dozen targets that we're going to test with detailed drone mag, and also some IP. So these are high priority, but there's also a conductor separate from the, further away from the boundary. There's a very interesting conductor that looks like a good gold target as well. So we'll be testing that with some surface work. Probably, about mid-April we'll be in there doing that.
Right. So the idea is to take those six target areas, do a little bit more work on it in the form of line cutting, IP, and really hone in on where we might sink a drill, and then wait for spring breakup and go for drilling after that.
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to shape up these targets, geophysical targets, and we're going to be prospecting as well before we actually do the drilling. But first things first, we'll ground truth these anomalies of interest. And as you say, you have to get on the ground. Sometimes we'll need to cut some lines. Sometimes we can just do more detailed drone flyover, which is a possibility. But we won't really be ready to drill until we've actually prospected the ground thoroughly. And I expect we'll be at that for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's the order before any drilling actually happens.
Right, and the timeline being out on the ground, your next visit will be back in mid-April.
Yeah, mid-April, and I'm hoping to have the prospectors in there by the end of the month if we have an early breakup. Things are moving along nicely there, so we might be able to have people in the field prospecting as early as the end of April. I'm hoping for that.
Right.
And so we'll be able to get on the ground and spend some serious time locating stuff and getting ready to drill.
And we did do a drone flyover when we first pieced these properties together at the tail end of last year. So that at least gives us an aerial view, so we can direct the prospectors in certain areas. And now the idea is to do some low altitude, high resolution magnetic flyovers to not only hone in on the targets that we have, but do some better mapping of the overall property, or at least the most interesting areas of the property, because it is a 13,000 almost hectare property. It's big. We've got to start to broaden out our ideas.
Yeah, we're really focused on the boundary area. The mag is, there were similar structures right near the boundary with the GPR, but yeah, we have to focus on one particular area for now and see how that works out. But it's the area where we have most of the features from the airborne, so we've got to really focus on that, just as you've described.
And in your most recent visit, I think you were at one of the ministry offices and you found an old Larry Herbert sample, which identified mineralizations, reasonably significant gold as well as silver in it.
Yes, that sample he uncovered in the course of outcrop stripping and washing, and we verified the gold there. We had numbers, assays up to 4.6 grams, and it would be 230 grams silver and percent copper. It was actually a pretty nice occurrence. That's a brand new occurrence. So, but that's in a different part of the property, and that's why we have to prospect to see what else we can locate on the property.
Right. There's certainly a lot exciting that we can look at, and but also our priority is to focus on those areas which we've already identified, and so that and critical path to drilling sensibly those targets, and then broadening it out from there.
Exactly.
I guess from then, investors certainly would be interested in where we are with the permitting process. We put in our permit applications before Christmas through the new permitting system that Ontario has in place, and also you've had some time. I think this is your second meeting with the First Nations, so perhaps you could update us on that.
Oh yeah, we're in the final 2-week period for a consultation. I think that we could well have a permit within 2 weeks. I have met with First Nations twice. I met the councillors recently. I gave a presentation at the same time that Great Bear was giving one, and really we're within a few weeks, we believe, of getting the permit for the work plan, which is anything other than the drilling, which will come under another permit, which we expect to have within another month following. That's where we're at right now.
Which all fits in nicely with our work program, and we have a little bit of cash in the bank, and we're undertaking a financing as we speak. So this should all roll off. Well, the best plans are as we've outlaid them.
Yep, I think we're in pretty good shape right now.
Okay, well, I think that's about it for this period, and let's give that a wrap.